Rank the albums. Rank the albums of Mansun. Why would I bother? Everyone already knows. What do you mean the format compels it? What do you mean you didn't say that? Mansun are an English rock band from the 90s with all the right influences and all the right skills. They should be appreciated alongside the Manic Street Preachers and Pulp and Suede for their inventive, often orchestral guitar-based rock that can be seen as both album-oriented and single-oriented, maybe EP-oriented. Now, Mansun released a whole lot of EPs. It's arguably the same thing as singles. Singles in the 90s were a fucked up concept. Singles beyond the idea of a piece of vinyl where one side is the A-side and the other side is the B-side single song. It just no longer makes sense. We're no longer bound to that medium. Mansun knew this, and they intended each of their singles as EPs. They basically have 4 tracks each, including the lead one, which is the single. From the audience perspective, this is just the same as 90s singles in general. The intended B-sides were split onto multiple discs just to create an extra product. In actual albums, the first one's called Attack of the Grey Lantern, and it's a ridiculously good debut album. No debut album should be allowed to be this fully formed. If you dig back to the earlier EPs to try and find Manson's more naive sound, even that is still great. This 3-disc edition throws together all of the era-relevant tracks, but the album itself is essential listening. It's an orchestrated, refined piece. With the kind of solidity that would make you think it's their second album, it's not. They were just that good. Just with the timing of Mansun, they can easily get filed as Britpop also-rans, and that's such a mistake, such a disservice to one of the highest quality bands of the century. Get the bigger edition if you can, or you'll just wind up collecting all the B-sides however you can. They weren't yet in absolutely perfect form on B-sides, but still, so good. It's provincial and quirky and grand and inventive. After a debut album that sounds so much like a second album, you can only make the second album a second album to have a second album. 6 is a fucking masterpiece of weird decisions that just work. It is their second masterpiece, but by no means second best. This takes the idea of pretension and gets pretentious with it. It's very willingly silly, but the listener is in on the joke. Really? That was also true about the first album. I've got to put this on top, but I hope that doesn't denigrate their first album at all, because that is nearly as perfect. Hard to describe this one. You'll be continually surprised as it goes. Sprawling, but thoroughly engaging. Mansun have long maintained that these EP B-sides count as an album in themselves, and it's easy to respect that with how damn good they are. Anything compared to the sprawling 6 is going to feel like urgent little nuggets, and it has that appeal, but a lot of its own depth. It's impressive and poetic with an angsty vibe. Brings them close to the Manics in vibe, if not in approach. It doesn't exactly match up to the published albums, but it could easily be another band's best work. If my own music is recognized as mostly a rip-off of this disc, then I'll take the compliment. Album 3 can only disappoint you after that. It was creatively compromised, and it's in that kind of Travis era when rock got bad. If you're ready for that, then some of the material on here is still worth it. Bring this one out sometimes, but it doesn't compare at all to what we already know Mansun for. B-sides of the time were a bit better than the album, more creatively honest. There's some talk of a revision version of this album where, unlike the first 2, it'd be a salvage as much as a compilation. There may not be so much to rescue on this one, but restoring Mansun material is a much better way to spend time than harassing women online. The 4th album, I don't know if it always comes in this distasteful yellow. It's kind of an unreleased album. No, I've got a copy of it here. Okay, an unfinished album. Yeah, Mansun dissolved during the making of what was meant to be their 4th record, and they eventually managed to pile together this 3-disc set. On the extra discs are some of the best B-sides, but not all of the best B-sides, and some still impressive previously unreleased stuff. But on what was meant to be the album is a band getting back to business. That first disc would go down as good in any discography except for this one, where it's going to have to pale in comparison to those first two. But they've rediscovered aggression and expression. So Klepto goes there, and this is the order that everyone already knew, except for people who didn't know about Mansun. And you guys have the privilege of hearing Attack of the Grey Lantern and 6 for the first time. I thoroughly recommend it.